Welcome back, everyone. This is dream number 9. It was the night of October 20th, 2024, and I wrote it down on October 22nd, 2024. So I had a dream where the people around me were brain dead or zombified, and I hate using that term because it's just so overused, but I don't know what else I could compare it to. It's almost just like these people were drugged or hypnotized somehow. But it felt worse than that. It felt worse than being drugged or hypnotized. So I was included in this group of people, even though I wasn't acting like them at all. I was perfectly with it. I could speak normally, I could walk normally, but somehow I had been grouped with these people. And we were all confined in what seemed like an abandoned hospital or an old school building. There were staff that would check on everyone to make sure they weren't getting better, as odd as that sounds. So when the staff would come around, I would have to fake it like I was as bad off as the rest of them. So I would start talking really slow in a slurred voice, like I was really sick, or maybe like someone would talk if they were drunk or drugged, like I said in the beginning. I had to act like that when the staff would come around. Now, I got the vibe in the dream that the staff were medical, such as doctors and nurses, but it also could have been that they were military related because there was a uniform esqueness to them, not really white lab coats or anything like that, but you could just tell that they all belonged together. They all had the same job. They were there to check on these people to make sure they weren't getting better. They never stayed long when they did come to check on people. It's almost like when a parent will check on a sleeping baby just to make sure they're okay, maybe look at them for a couple seconds and admire their cute little faces, but they don't stay. They walk out. So when the medical staff would walk away after checking on everyone else, I would start speaking in my regular voice to the people who were there to let them know not to take the mark of the beast. Why I was telling them that specifically, I'm not 100% sure. But I was also warning them just about the tribulation and the timeline and letting them know what was coming next and what to expect. While I was telling people this, there were 2 snakes coming down a gravel hill. They were silver. They were about 4 feet long each. In my dream, I just remember thinking how big they were. They stopped to my left and slightly behind me. And the way they moved, instead of slithering side to side like a snake here on Earth does, they kind of slivered in a wave-like motion, like when you see someone working out at the gym and they're flinging those ropes. I'm not real sure what that workout is called, but you can just imagine the waves that those ropes make, or maybe an inchworm in fast motion. That's how these snakes were moving. But when I looked directly at the snakes, they would just stop and hold perfectly still. It's almost like they had no power as long as I was aware of their presence. And at the same time, I had a feeling that my noticing these snakes was going to get me in trouble because it was somehow a signal to the staff that I wasn't out of it like the rest of the people, like I should be. If I was cognizant enough to see these snakes and know what they were doing and be able to stop their power, it was going to set an alarm off, I guess you could say, that, hey, she's down there not acting like the rest of them. She is aware of what's going on. But in my dream, I didn't care because I knew that had to I had to take notice of these snakes, these 2 silver snakes. And then right after I noticed the 2 silver snakes, I turned around to look at them because they had gone slightly behind me and to the left. So I've turned around and I look up at the sky because I heard the call of a bird, and there was an eagle up and to my right in the sky. In my dream, I knew it was an eagle, even though I couldn't 100% see it because it was above a layer of clouds. The sun was shining down through the clouds, and it created a shadow of the eagle on the clouds. So I couldn't see the eagle, but I could see its presence. I could see its shadow. the eagle was teetering back and forth like a teeter-totter or a seesaw on the playground would, and then I woke up. So what I took this dream as meaning is, as far as the zombified people, it's very possible that the people in the dream had been drugged to make them look zombified because they had already taken the mark of the beast. Because I have heard other people's dreams lately that they are dreaming about being in a crowd of people who have the mark of the beast and they don't have the mark of the beast. And these people just act odd. It's like they're all connected and they're all on the same brainwave. And they all know when somebody doesn't belong with them, somebody doesn't have the mark of the beast with them. So the fact that I was warning these people in the dream not to take the mark of the beast might have been pointless. Maybe I did that because I'm just a hopeful person in real life as well. And I was just hoping that these people were hearing anything I had to say so that they could pass on the information. I also don't think that people will be drugged and be forced to take the mark of the beast. It's definitely something that will be chosen by the person who takes the mark of the beast. So do remember that. You're not going to be asleep and then wake up with the mark of the beast. You're going to know that you chose to take the mark of the beast, okay? It's going to be very clear. It's going to be on the right hand or the forehead. Remember that. So as far as me warning the people in the dream, what that signifies is that, so once someone receives the mark of the beast, there's no turning back. So I'm not sure if this part of the dream was just me being hopeful, like I said, that these people were hearing something or anything that I was saying, or if I was saying these things so they could possibly fight for themselves once I went away because they were drugged, but they hadn't yet taken the mark of the beast. Maybe they were drugged to be taken where they were, and then they were going to be offered the mark of the beast. So I was just preaching to them, I guess you could say, about not taking it so that they could remember anything once they came to and I was gone. So snakes are very symbolic in the Bible, used so many times, starting in Genesis, tempting Eve to take a bite of the apple so that she could know everything, just like God does. You can go back and read that story yourself, but snakes are used in the Bible to represent Satan's attempt to deceive God's people. So that's very important in this dream, that the snakes were there to deceive, okay? Snakes are in Genesis 3, Matthew 3:7, Matthew 12:34, Matthew 23:33, Luke 3:7, John 8:44. You guys can look all those up yourselves. Now silver, I wasn't real sure what that meant in my dream, but when I looked it up after the fact, silver can mean redemption or purification. And we'll get to that here in a second. As far as the eagle, in Exodus 19:4 and also Deuteronomy 32:11, eagles represent God's loving care. So in those verses, God is described as being bringing the Israelites out of Egypt and into Canaan as if on the wings of an eagle. So his protection is keeping those people safe. An eagle can also represent vengeance, such as swooping down to take revenge. This is seen in Revelation when the eagle is seen in the sky, and he is the messenger of the judgment that is coming to those who are left on earth after the rapture. So just putting all that together, the snakes and the silver and everything, what I got out of this dream was that we have a storyline that shows deception coming, but with a silver lining. So no pun intended, but there is deception coming in the form of those snakes, but with a silver lining, which is redemption and purification, and revenge, because in the end, Satan does not win. So it sounds to me that like God wins this one, like he always does. Hallelujah for that. So just stay strong, because tough times are coming for everyone, even before the rapture. We're in tough times right now, you guys. Okay, but when the Christians are raptured, it's going to get even worse. The Great Tribulation, like I've said in the past videos, will literally be hell on earth, because God's grace that has been holding Satan back so that Satan can't put as much harm on the earth as he really wants to, because he hates humans. He wants to put hell right here on earth, but God has been holding back the reins and telling him no and just letting him do things here and there. But once the Christians are raptured, God's going to let Satan do whatever he wants. There will be no reigns anymore. There will be no Holy Spirit here to hold that evil back. So it's going to get way worse before it gets better. The Bible promises that the tribulation is going to be like no other time earth has ever seen. Okay. And as far as the mark of the beast, Revelation 13 verses 16 through 18, it causes all, both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand or the forehead, so that no one can buy or sell unless he has the mark. That is the name of the beast or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let the one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Okay? Right hand or forehead is going to be the mark of the beast. It is going to be something people willfully take, and I have an alarm going off and I don't even see my phone. Sorry, guys. So where was I? Okay, so some think that the mark of the beast will be technology mixed with an implantation or something medical. So it's possible that the COVID vaccine got people used to things that weren't tested. Like it got people geared up for just taking things that weren't highly tested. So in other words, this could be a chip that is inserted into humans that will cause them maybe to become robot-like or zombified, very, very controlled. The Bible verse states that no one will be able to buy or sell if they don't have the mark of the beast. So think of like the chip on your debit card, or how we can tap our phones to pay. That will be possibly the technology, but it will be inserted in your body so that it can be tracked where you are, what you're buying. There will be no denying that you made that debit or that you did that transaction, because the transaction can only be done because you are there. Okay. This is a very, very, very trackable and, what's the word I'm thinking of? Very controllable. Like you're going to be controlled if you do the mark of the beast. And going back, like I've said in past videos, Satan is always a counterfeit. So I believe, like I said, that Satan used the 2020 vaccine. I'll just say that because I've already said the word and I don't want anything to get flagged and taken down. But that vaccine was used to create a fake sense of security and letting government mandated things just be like, oh, the government will take care of us. I can go ahead and get this. It was like training wheels, you can say, getting everyone to trust us so that this next quote unquote vaccine or implant, very, very few people will question it, but you need to question it. You do not take it. It will literally destroy your soul. Okay, so those who refuse to get the mark of the beast, you're going to be tortured, you're going to be ridiculed, you're going to be left to starve because you won't be able to participate in commerce. Okay, you won't be able to buy food. If you have a job, you won't be able to be paid because whoever's going to implement this is going to implement it on a wide scale. But if you put your hope in the Lord, you will not perish. Okay? Jesus and the saints who are raptured, they will be back. We will be back for you guys. Okay? I've said in past videos that there's speculation that this will be 7 Hebrew years after the rapture, and a Hebrew year is roughly 360 days. They vary from year to year depending on if they have a leap month or not. But basically 7-ish years. that the Christians and Jesus will be back. The Bible is unclear of the time frame. It says nobody knows the day or the hour of the rapture, but once we are gone, that clock starts its countdown. Okay. I know there are many people right now, Christian and non, who could just feel something in their soul isn't right, something bad's about to happen, something wicked this way comes, whatever you want to say. And we need to listen to that, especially as Christians, that we need, if you're a Christian, even if you're not a Christian and you have not read Revelation, read it. Okay. It is the only book in the Bible that promises a blessing if you read it. So read it. It might not make sense the first time you read it again. Ask God to reveal what each thing means. Ask him to reveal what the colors of the horses mean, what a horse period means, what each trumpet and each bowl signify, what the darkening of the sun and the moon turning red, what all that means. And he will give you the knowledge. Okay. You just have to ask for it. The Bible is full of symbolism because symbolism will never change. If the Bible were to put in exact words what's going to happen, those words might mean something different from one generation to the next. So it would be hard to decipher what the actual meaning of it is. And God also hides things in the Bible so that you're only going to understand it if you're truly seeking it. Because if the evil person got their hand on the Bible and they saw what was supposed to happen, they just wouldn't let it happen. They'd be like, oh, I'll prove God wrong. I just won't do that. But because they are blinded, they don't understand the symbolism in the book of Revelation to know exactly what's going to happen. So just ask for wisdom when reading the book. So back to the mark of the beast. Do not take it. Just trust in with all your understanding, like just trust in the Lord with and I have no doubt that you will be supernaturally taken care of. Just like in the New Testament Gospels, Jesus was able to feed thousands of people with just a loaf of bread and some fish. And we could get to those here in a little bit, but supernaturally you will be taken care of. And if you die, honestly, oh well, it is the end of the world. I'm not going to say it's not the end of the world because it is the end of the world, but you dying because you believe in Jesus and don't want to worship the Antichrist is just a free ticket to heaven, or a one-way ticket to heaven, I should say. So don't take the mark of the beast. A split second of being pain from being put to death is nothing compared to burning for eternity in hell because you chose the mark of the beast and to walk with Satan. Okay, so some Bible verses to go along with all this. I felt led to share Jeremiah 17:7-8. Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose trust is the Lord. He is like a tree planted by water that sends out its roots by the stream and does not fear when heat comes, for its leaves remain green, and is not anxious in the year of drought, for it does not cease to bear fruit. Okay, I'm going to read that one again. Blessed is the man who trusts in the Lord, whose trust is the Lord. He is like a tree planted by water that sends out its roots by the stream and does not fear when heat comes, for its leaves remain green, and is not anxious in the year of drought, for it does not cease to bear fruit. And then also the miracles of the feeding of the 5,000 that I mentioned in the Gospels, Matthew 14, verses 13-21. When Jesus heard what had happened, he withdrew by boat privately to a solitary place. Hearing of this, the crowds followed him on foot from the towns. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them and healed their sick. And when it grew late, his disciples came to him and said, "This is a desolate place, and the hour is now late. Send them away to go into the surrounding countryside and villages and buy themselves something to eat." But he answered them, "You give them something to eat." And they said to him, "Shall we go and buy 200 denarii worth of bread and give it to them to eat?" And he said to them, "How many loaves do you have? Go and see." And when he had found out, they said, 5 and 2 fishes. He commanded them all to sit down in groups on the green grass. So they sat down in the groups by hundreds and by fifties. And taking the 5 loaves of bread and the 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and said a blessing and broke the loaves and gave them to the disciples to set before the people. And he divided the 2 fish among them all. And they all ate and were satisfied. And they took up 12 baskets full of broken pieces and of fish. And those who ate the loaves were 5,000 men. So Jesus took what they had, the 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish, and he was able to feed 5,000 people, which is a miracle in its own. But then he also had 12 baskets of leftovers, 12 baskets. So he can supernaturally take care of you if you just trust in him. Now, the same story is seen in the Gospel of Mark, Mark 6, verses 35 through 44. As evening approached, the disciples came to him and said, "This is a remote place, and it's already getting late. Send the crowds away so they can go to the villages and buy themselves some food." Jesus replied, "They do not need to go away. You give them something to eat." "We only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish," they answered. "Bring them here to me," he said. And he directed the people to sit down in the grass. Taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, and looking up to heaven, he gave thanks and broke the loaves. Then he gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the people. They all ate and were satisfied, and the disciples picked up 12 baskets full of broken pieces that were left over. The number of those who ate was about 5,000 men, besides women and children. Also seen in Luke 9:12 through 17. Now the day began to wear away, and the 12 came and said to him, "Send the crowd away to go into the surrounding villages and countryside to find lodging and to get provisions, for we are here in a desolate place." But he said to them, "You give them something to eat." They said, "We have no more than 5 loaves and 2 fish, unless we are to go and buy food for all these people." For there were about 5,000 men, and he said to the disciples, "Have them sit down in groups of about 50 each." And so they did, and he had them sit down. And taking the 5 loaves and the 2 fish, he looked up to heaven and said a blessing over them. Then he broke the loaves and gave them to the disciple to set before the crowd. And they all ate and were satisfied. And what was left over was picked up, 12 baskets of broken pieces. Also in the Gospel of John, John chapter 6, verses 1 through 13. After this, Jesus went away to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias, and a large crowd was following him, because they saw the signs that he was doing on the sick. Jesus went up to the mountain, and there he sat down with his disciples. Now the Passover, the feast of the Jews, was at hand. Lifting up his eyes, then, and seeing that a large crowd was coming toward him, Jesus said to Philip, "Where are we to buy bread so that these people may eat?" He said this to test him, for he knew what he would do. Philip answered him, 200 denarii worth of bread would not be enough for each of them to get even a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, "There is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish, but what are they for so many?" Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down, about 5,000 in number. Jesus then took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to those who were seated. He also the fish, as much as they wanted. And when they had eaten their fill, he told his disciples, "Gather up the leftover fragments, that nothing may be lost." So they gathered them up and filled 12 baskets with fragments from the 5 barley loaves left by those who had eaten. So if you have a hard time believing that God will take care of you, these Bible verses are saying that he will. He can supernaturally take care of you, okay? Also, Hebrews 13:8. Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. There are some people, even some Christians, who think that God doesn't do miracles today, but he does. He has to, because he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. He does not change, okay? So Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. If he could do these miracles in Bible times, they can be done today. So just to remind you, if you are faced with death and persecution from the Antichrist, who is going to proclaim peace in Israel, that's one of the indicators of who the Antichrist will be. If you are killed by this Antichrist, you will feel no, it's thought that maybe you won't feel any pain, that your soul will actually leave your body before your body is actually struck. So they think they are hurting you, but God is saving you from that pain because you are trusting in Jesus. So once again, this is just another story of what the enemy meant for evil, God means for good. So the Antichrist is putting you to death, thinking he's making an example out of you, but really he's just sending you to heaven. Okay? The Antichrist knows this because the Antichrist is being controlled by Satan. It's the worst demon possession you will ever see once he has his wrath. But the Antichrist wants to get rid of you because you are a threat to him if you spread the gospel that you now have living in your heart. Okay, so just stay strong and stay brave, and remember Genesis 50 verses 19 through 21. But Joseph said to them, "Do not fear, for am I in the place of God? As for you, you meant evil against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it about that many people should be kept alive as they are today. So do not fear, I will provide for you and your little ones." Thus he comforted them and spoke kindly to them. That was Genesis 50 verses 19 through 21. Now I do have a feeling that the enemy is going to wipe clean all digital warnings from the internet. So Facebook posts, YouTube channels, things like that. Okay. He's either going to do this by just totally wiping out power or internet or something along those lines, but it might take a while. Okay. So these videos might be out there for a while, but then they might disappear. So that's why I'm trying to have as many hard copies of things as possible in case these videos aren't around after a certain time. So I have a left behind note with all these dreams and Bible verses in it. And I just hope that those who are left behind will be able to find them. That's all I have to share for now. I have had a couple of other things happen lately, but I don't feel like it's time to share those just yet. So I just want to thank you guys for tuning in. I'm not sure when I will be back next because, like I've said before, you can't control what you dream or when you dream it. So next time I have something I feel like I need to share, I will hop back on here and be sure to share that with you guys. Thanks for listening. Bye.